Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the stream. It's Saturday, and you know what that means. It's time for the weekend kickoff, our awesome strength and stamina focused bodyweight class. And gosh, what a beautiful day it is here. Hello, welcome. Thanks for getting up with me. If it felt like getting up early, well, no. Everybody has different sleep cycles. Like, it's 9 a.m. for me. It doesn't feel particularly early, but for some people it is, and that's totally fine. But I'm always glad when people join me in this class because it's one of my favorites. It's just a nice pop of energy in the morning, helps you to feel really excited and invested in everything else that you're going to do today. For me, that's D&D, and getting boxes for moving things. Yeah. I'm very lucky that several of my friends have also moved recently, so there's sort of a surplus of moving boxes in the friend community out here. So I don't have to worry about buying boxes or anything like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good weekend. I woke up this morning. I've talked a bit about my morning rituals, and writing is one of them, and I sort of take different approaches to morning pages. Sometimes it's straight out journaling, sometimes it's more stream of consciousness. But this morning I woke up and I had a story in my head, and I sat down and spent almost an hour writing it out, and that hasn't happened to me in a while, and that was so exciting. People, like, we have this popular conception of writers as like they're going along and then suddenly they can't not write. Suddenly there's a thing in their head and they have to get it out. And I remember experiencing that when I was younger. But I feel like I had lost touch with that for years in terms of my writing. And to sort of wake up and be like, no, there's a story in my head and I just want to set it down, was really cool. And I feel like part of the reason why that happened is just that I have been creating this ritual and creating this expectation for myself and my brain that, I wake up in the morning and I write. And, now that my brain has had a little time to settle into that and to go, okay, this is something that I can count on. This is something that's happening every single day. It was able to go, there's a little story banging around in here. Let's see what we can do with it. There is one hair. All right, yeah. It's obviously going to be a while before I can feel comfortable going back to the salon of America. But it was a wonderful feeling. And yeah, and it's just really nice to realize that, we're halfway through January, and I feel like this structure and this morning structure has really started to put down roots, and that feels really wonderful, and it just feels really, really grounding. No matter what else is going on, no matter what else happens over the course of the day, I have this time that I know that I can count on, and that's really wonderful. And I recognize that it's very lucky for me because I'm not, a caretaker. I'm not a parent. So yeah, obviously there are plenty of people in situations where they don't have that much full control over their time. And, that is something that gets lost really easily when we see all these like self-care things online, and, people being like, it's really important to set space for yourself. And it's like, well, yes, and also it's not as easy as just going, okay, I'm going to set space for myself when your kid is getting you out of bed at 5:30 in the morning, or when you have 3 jobs and you don't wake up until 5 minutes before you're supposed to be there, or you have an aging parent who you are caretaking for and need to make sure that they've had their medication and they've had some food and that everything's been taken care of. And and I don't know what the solution is, because it is so important to build that time that's just for us, and to build that space that's just for us. But we've also created a really terrible capitalist system that doesn't actually appreciate us taking time that's just for us, and that's not being monetized in some way, or not meeting this weird nebulous definition of productivity in some way. And yeah, I feel like, honestly, I feel like the answer just comes back down to break down late stage capitalism, which most answers come down to. So yeah, there we are. Although late stage capitalism has given us WandaVision, which is the most fascinating 2 episodes of television that I've watched in a long time. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm excited to find out more. And that's such a thrilling feeling, because trailers these days definitely have a tendency to just give you every single piece of relevant information about a movie or a television show right up front. And it definitely, for many movies, I'm like, well, I'm glad that you did that, because now I honestly don't have to go and see your thing, because you've given me all the relevant plot points. I know exactly how this story goes. Like, the chemistry displayed between the actors in this trailer is not enough to make me go, oh, well, maybe it'll be interesting in that realm. So cool, you've saved me several hours of my day. I've been watching WandaVision trailers for a while, and just have continued to have no coherent idea of what's happening. And watching the first 2 episodes last night was just like, I still don't know what's happening, and I love it. It's such a novel feeling right now. And the performances are all fantastic, and oh my god, the camera, the cinematography, and the effects folks are clearly having a ball. They are getting to reproduce camera techniques from the 50s, 60s. I assume we're moving into the 70s. Like, the first episode had, it was like classic 50s era sitcom filming techniques. And then there's one scene where it flips and the lighting shifts, and then it becomes like a Sam Spade movie. And I was just like, oh my god, there are some film nerds making this show, and they are doing a beautiful job. And I really hope that they get recognized in whatever way we get to recognize people this year, because it's really impressive to look at. Oh, and yeah. Good morning, my dear. I was just talking about WandaVision. And then I was thinking that it was probably time to kick off class. But hello. If you haven't watched Morning Vision yet, you should. Consider this my recommendation. Also, only 2 episodes are out so far. I can't binge. I'm gonna have to watch it slowly and carefully, which is also a novel experience in this era. But yes, strong recommendation for WandaVision. I think so far it is really good. And so far I am really invested in finding out what the heck is happening. So, but we're not watching that right now. Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, there's only 2 episodes out right now, I believe. So, you're not gonna be able to binge for that long. Hi! Oh my goodness! You're back in class! How's the shoulder feeling? What are we doing today? Are we doing a lot of shoulder stuff? Okay, so there may be a lot of shoulder stuff, so just take care of yourself. But, yay! Welcome back. I trust you. I trust you to know your limits. And I trust Leanne to glare at you if you start forgetting them. But let's get started, my friends. It's a beautiful day. It's 9:05. I'd say it's good time for some exercise. Woo! All right, pre-class checklist. Today's class is one of my Assassin's Creed classes, which I have used before. It's a party this morning. Hi! Hi. Look at this. Love it. Love it. All right, so we've got our water bottles, water glasses, whatever vessel you are using to hold water. We've got our comfy clothes on. We've got our mats or a mat-sized space on the floor. And if you are using a fitness wearable, we can turn them on right now to high-intensity interval training. Yeah, seriously. Morning workout crew. All right. Well, speaking of, I mean, there's so many people here. I think it's just time for us to work out. Hiya! My speakers on? Yes. Haha. Good job, me. All right. Let's just put on Do Not Disturb because my D&D Discord is going crazy right now. I usually I was like, something feels weird, and it's because I usually take my glasses off for the warm-up. And I don't know why I got into that particular habit, but it's too late now. All right. On your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee, and when that timer goes off, we will begin with our hip rocks and bridges. Hiya! Oh, man. Yeah, for some reason, my body has definitely been feeling a little bit more like stiff and sore this week after all of our classes, which is always like I enjoy that feeling. I enjoy the, like we like to complain about delayed onset muscle soreness, but I feel like a lot of us do enjoy this sort of seemingly tactile representation of how hard we have worked on our workouts. But it definitely doesn't happen for me nearly as frequently anymore. So it's always like, I always have this sort of combination like, oh, cool, I'm getting to have this experience again with, I wonder what's different. All right, switch sides. I wonder what's different about this week that is causing me to feel my workout a little bit more. And most of the times I never get an answer for that because the human body is just so bizarre. I want to do more anatomy studying this year. I definitely want to dig a little bit more into the specific mechanics. I feel like my certification is just certified personal trainer, and you need to have some anatomy knowledge for that, but not a ton to get the certification, which makes sense, and which obviously I was very happy about in taking the test itself. But it definitely leaves you with this feeling that you know just enough to be dangerous. All right, Jane Fonda time. So yeah, I feel like I know just enough anatomy to be dangerous, and but not so much that I have all the answers that I want, or all the answers that to questions that clients might have for me. So that's definitely something I want to dig back into over the course of this year. You could tell, I feel like every class I have a different thing that I'm talking to you about that I want to dig back into. I'm definitely feeling a little ambitious here at the beginning of 2021. And you know what? I am excited about that. 'Cause yeah, 2020 really put the kibosh on a lot of ambitions of mine. So it's nice to feel like they're coming back a little bit. All right, top foot flat on the floor in front of that bottom leg. We're lifting the bottom leg. And remember, we want this knee pointing straight up towards the ceiling, yeah? And depending on your hip flexibility, you may be able to just set your leg here and forget it, or you may really need to engage the muscles in the back of your hip to pull that knee backwards if it's caving forward, okay? Here on the floor, it's not the worst thing in the world if it does cave forward, okay? We're not putting any specific pressure on the leg, so this is the time. But that also means that this is the time to practice engaging those muscles that help protect your knee, because when we get up, we start doing squats. I don't want to psychically divine that anyone's knees are caving forward. All right, foot flat on the floor, behind the bottom knee, still lifting that bottom leg. We're in our beach pose. We are chilling. God, I miss the beach. I never really thought I would say that. I've never been a huge beach person. Like, it's one of those things that I enjoy when I go, but never so much that I'm like, oh, I have to keep going back over and over again. Yeah, you know, it's one of those funny things about like moving to Hawaii. When I was 9, I remember the first 2 years that we were out there. My parents and I were fairly adventurous, and like, you know, went driving all over the place, and went to a lot of swimming locations and hiking locations, and went to the beach a lot, and then just totally stopped, basically, because my parents have never been particularly beach people either. And, you know, they've lived out there for almost 3 decades at this point, and I doubt that either of them have gone to the beach if there hasn't been somebody actively visiting them in basically almost all of that time. and that was sort of how I approached it as well. But man, I do miss it. I do miss the experience. There is definitely something very meditative about being at the beach, for me anyway. And one of the things I do when I set up in the mornings, I have this app called Tide that can be used for like Pomodoro timing techniques, or it can be used to just give you sort of an ambient noise soundscape. And I use the ocean soundscape in the mornings, and it always makes me feel very calm and present, but definitely has also been ramping up my my nostalgia for the beach. I know I'm going to get there and have my first beach visit, you know, whenever that happens, probably not till 2023 or something, the way things are going, and then go, oh, all right, cool, I'm good for another 10 years. We will see. All right, so we're on our second side. We're back to paying attention to pulling that knee backwards, and pay attention to the differences in your hip flexibility, okay? So this is my stiffer hip, so I have to really engage more of the musculature to make sure that my knee doesn't start dipping forward, okay? But now, back to the pose that started that entire conversation, the beach pose. Remember that your foot, in terms of placement, I don't really have a strong preference. I tend to go between a flexed foot and a neutral foot, and there's not really any rhyme or reason for the choices. If you want to point your foot, that's also totally fine. It's up to you. It's entirely up to you. It doesn't really materially change the activity in this particular instance. So just chilling, relaxing here, getting ready to move into the next section of warm-up where we start waking up our spines and our hips. Hiya! All right, so beginning with our scorpion twists, planting. Oh, sorry, I had to crack my hip there for a second. Planting our forearms on the ground and twisting one leg at a time, over behind us, trying to get that foot flat on the floor, trying to get that knee pointing up towards the ceiling. But before either of those things, making sure that our elbows are staying glued to the ground. They are not coming up. They are not lifting. If you can't twist to this position without pulling a knee or pulling an elbow off the floor, then you can't go that far yet, all right? So it provides us a really nice measuring stick for where our current flexibility is, and provides us something to notice our improvements as well. When you're like, oh, I made it a lot farther that time before my elbow felt like it wanted to pull up off the floor. And now, time for our torso rotations. Changing directions every couple of rotations. We only do this on one timer, so I want you to make sure that you're evening yourself out. We're holding our imaginary PVC pipe above our heads. And someday I'll just go to McGuckins and actually get a PVC pipe so that I don't, I'm just imagining, new students coming to class and being like, why is she holding her hands up above her head like that? Well, it's because when I teach this class in real life, I actually have a small length of PVC pipe that I have students hold. And it's nice because it's super light, so it's not adding a lot of weight to the exercise, but it gives us something to hold. And you also can incorporate trying to flex the pipe a little bit. So for these squats, in my in-person classes, frequently I will have students flex the pipe, and that just adds a little bit more muscle engagement in the arms, and sort of wakes them up a little bit in the mornings. All right, how are your knees doing on these squats? Again, making sure that our knees are going straight over our feet, not caving in towards one another. This is exactly what we were working on earlier, so put it into practice. Except right now, we're going to Samson stretches. So nice long lunge. Really feel that stretch in the front of the hip flexor, okay? And we're not staying for a long time in each lunge position, all right? This is an active stretch, so we're not trying to just settle in and stretch out for a long time. That's called static stretching. And it's safer to do that at the end of class when you've really warmed up your muscles and fatigued them too. And those two things combined mean that you can stretch them more easily and be less likely to trigger the activation signals that make the muscle fibers try to contract, all right? But for now, we do a lot more active stretching at the beginning of class so we can start building in that flexibility, but not be stretching cold muscles, which increases the likelihood that we're gonna tear something or strain something. So always try to focus on active stretches at the beginning of your workout, and don't go for any super static stretches until you've already done your workout. That's why we put that stretching segment at the very end of class. It gives us a nice cool down and an opportunity to care for our muscles a little bit as we are finishing up our workout. All right, cardio time, starting with our jumping jacks. Nice bare minimum jumping jacks. We're just trying to activate the cardiovascular system. So get those heart rates going a little bit faster. get that breath coming a little bit faster. So we're moving our oxygen through the body more quickly and giving our muscles a chance to break down their ATP reserves and their glycogen reserves to get that energy going. So we don't need to be doing giant jumping jacks for that. All right, we can do these little baby jumping jacks and just turn the boot up keys, as it were. All right, and now into our kick throughs. So remember, I'm gonna go over form for this, because I know there's at least one friend taking class this morning who has shoulder stuff. So we want to try to have the shoulder over the wrist, and for that standing leg, 90-degree angle with the knee pointing up towards the ceiling. So we don't want to be stretched out like this, okay? This is not the position. That is really unstable and is just going to cause you a lot of issues. I've got my feet and hands pretty close together so that when I kick that foot out, I can have my standing leg at that 90 degrees and I can have my shoulder basically over my wrist, and then switch and go to the other side, okay? Make sure that your shoulder is stable when you make that transition. All right, last but not least, everybody's favorite, burpees. That's why we have the victory clap in there, right? Is to really hammer home how much y'all love burpees. Isn't that true? I think it's true. And since I'm the only one in my living room right now, I will continue to believe that it's true. And well, I was gonna say, none of you can tell me different, but I suppose that you can in the chat. But don't tell me differently. Just leave me to my delusions that you enjoy burpees. Hey! All right. Do. Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. Wow, that's a hell of a blocked term. Good grief, people. Definitely had someone try to slide into my DMs last night, being like, hey, I want to fuck you. And I was like, why? Seriously, why would you do that? Why? I am a total stranger to you, and I am clearly running an exercise channel, but yeah, banned, blocked, reported. It's just, I should take some time at every class to just thank mods. Yeah, I don't understand people either. Zero energy or flexibility this morning. So if that's how you're feeling, again, reminder, focus on the bare minimum, okay? If you're coming into class and you're like, I am feeling really worn down and I don't even know how I'm gonna get through the rest of class, it is okay to go back to that basic starting point and just focus on starting on time, stopping on time, and doing the exercises correctly, okay? You know that's gonna give you a good workout. You do not have to come in here and be pushing to 120% every single time. Sometimes, as class goes on, your energy will pick up and you'll go, ooh, cool. I'll start to challenge myself a little bit more. And sometimes you'll stay in that mode for all of class, and that's okay too, all right? Again, listening to the signals our brains and our bodies are sending us. 5 minutes before they enter chat. Good, great. All right, my friends. We are going to start with a Tabata. 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. 3 exercises, going 3 times through. So pretty traditional start. Oh my God, these puzzle pieces. Yeah, I was talking at class last night about how I maintain some hope, and I'm going to need to get into the space and figure out how to best set it up for class, but I maintain some hope that I might be able to set up the puzzle pieces in the new streaming space so that they're not constantly pulling apart from one another. All right, our 3 exercises are, we're going to start with a held wide squat, which means that you really need to be activating that hip musculature to pull those knees back so they are not caving forward, because we are just holding this squat position. We don't get to have our hands on our knees. We've got our forearms pressed together and we're just holding here, okay? Second exercise. Oh my goodness. And I haven't even flipped my mat yet. It's shrimps. You know how much I love shrimps. All right. So, we're moving ourselves back and forth along our mats by first moving shoulders, then hips, shoulders, then hips. If you're still struggling with this exercise, then I want you to just start by doing really small boat rocks, basically. So I've engaged and contracted my ab muscles so that I can just sort of rock on a really rounded back. And I want you to visualize, okay, every time my shoulders come off the floor, I'm going to move them in the direction I'm traveling. Every time my hips come off the floor, I'm going to move them in the direction I'm traveling. And just stick with that for a while. And then try to initiate the actual movement, okay? So nothing wrong with visualizing for a while before you get going. And then our third exercise, side to side planks. Tim, it's like I knew you were coming. So we start from this front plank position, shoulders directly over our wrists. Let your heels fall to the side. Come up on one arm. And remember, we are pushing up away from the floor, not letting ourselves sink down into that shoulder socket. Other arm comes up towards the ceiling. Hold for a second, let the judges see it. Back through that front plank and to the other side. And we'll just go back and forth, okay? So those are our exercises. Held wide squat, shrimps, and then side to side planks. And we're doing it on a tabata, which is awesome because it means that the first sound you're gonna hear does not mean go. First sound is our stop and rest sound. Then you'll hear knock, 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 which tells you to get ready, get in position before we kick off, all right? Knock, knock, knock. So we get prepped. So the second we hear that fanfare, we get into position, okay? And that's the thing that's nice about tabatas. It makes starting on time and stopping on time super simple prospect because we're coming out of a rest, all right? So when we hear that knock, we get to set ourselves up, and then we know that as soon as the starting sound goes, we can just immediately start moving, okay? It becomes different when we're doing a perpetual motion set, and I have a feeling that there will be at least some of those in this particular sequence. But for now, let's enjoy the fact that it's pretty easy to tell when we're supposed to be starting and when we're supposed to be stopping. Where am I going? Side to side planks, that's where I'm going. That's a useful thing too, remembering what exercise is next. You know, if you're ever going along and you're like, oh my God, I don't remember what's next, what the heck is happening? Don't worry, that clearly happens to me all the time too. So we just get started when we can. Oh my goodness. All right, second time through. Going back to those held wide squats. So I really want you to check in on that hip engagement. We do not want those knees starting to cave forward. If you're struggling to keep your knees over your feet, don't turn your feet out as wide, okay? I can turn out pretty widely because dancer training, but if you need to turn your feet a little bit more back towards parallel to be able to hold that position, that's okay. All right, now our shrimps. So remember, for shrimps, our hips can travel a much further distance than our shoulders can. So we need to rein in the distance traveled by our hips to match what our shoulders can do. Otherwise, we're going to be like a rowboat with one oar, and we're just going to start turning ourselves in circles. And yes, I've definitely seen students do that. So always keep that in mind. And now going back to side planks. Y'all know this is one of my favorites. Such a good shoulder strengthening exercise. Remember, we're not going for speed on this one. We are going for strength and stability in our shoulder socket, which is notoriously the most unstable joint that we have. So we need to help them out, all right? We need to give them a little bit of assistance because they do a lot for us. And let me tell you, you never realize how much a particular joint or limb does until you lose full mobility in it for whatever reason. It's really remarkable to be like, wow, I never really put that much thought into the work that my shoulders were doing until suddenly I didn't feel like I was able to fully use them. And now I'm just really aware of how important they are. So if it sounds like I harp on particular strengthening exercises, you know, obviously my personal experience is always going to be colored by, or my focus is always going to be colored by my personal experience. And the last couple of years, I've had a lot of shoulder stuff. And so it's definitely a huge focus point for me. And thankfully, I've definitely managed to strengthen my shoulders a lot and work through a lot of that. But it's an ongoing process, not a perfect one, and definitely something I'd like to help you avoid if at all possible. Oh man. Yeah, PT on a BOSU. Oh, BOSUs. I do miss those. For anyone who doesn't know what a BOSU is, basically if you've seen a stability ball, it's half a stability ball on a plastic base. So it's basically a half of a circle. And it's really good for balance exercises. And the squat jumps that I do in class originally were jumps on a BOSU ball. I don't do that right now because not everybody has a BOSU ball in their home. And we're trying to make this as accessible a class as possible. But when I'm in the gym, there's definitely use of the BOSU ball. Good. Hey, see, your body's warming up. That's the whole point of the warm up, is to get us a little looser, a little more ready to work out. All right. So now we're going to go for 30 seconds of work to 10 seconds of rest. So still a Tabata, but slightly longer work interval. And our 3 exercises. Hiya. Okay. First exercise is going to be penchés. Again, sometimes I bring dance terminology into this. So we're going to be alternating legs. So I'm going to start, basically, I'm balancing on one foot and I'm bringing my entire rest of my body over. So I'm almost in a T position. I want my hips still facing the floor. I want my legs stretched out behind me, my torso stretched out in front of me. And then I will stand switch feet, and do the other side. So we're just going to be going back and forth from foot to foot, okay? And trying to get as much into a T position as possible. It's going to depend on your flexibility and strength, obviously, but that's sort of the goal position. Second exercise is going to be our chaturanga to downward dog. Again, my usual caveat, I am not a yoga instructor, so this is sort of my version. Starting from a front plank, coming down as if we are doing a push-up. When you're almost at the floor, leave your hips down by the floor, extend your arms fully, then push back to that downward dog, and then back to the plank, and repeat, okay? And then our third exercise, speak of the devil, it's boat rocks. So for full boat rocks, we'll start balanced up on our tailbone and in this pike position, but I want you to contract your core so that it rounds out your lower back so that we can rock onto our backs and then back up onto our tailbone. This is an exercise that I really want you to focus on the core engagement because it's easy to lose it, but you really need to maintain it the whole time so that you're not slowly straightening out and then suddenly you basically belly flop onto your back. All right, so penchés, chaturanga to downward dog, and then boat rocks. 30-second work intervals this time. No, that's not what I wanted. Hey, there we go. All right, and our first sound does not mean go, so we still get a little time. Last sip of water, shake ourselves out, and then we hear our knock, knock, knock. So we get into position, ready to start. And so this again is another exercise where we are not going for speed. You're probably not going to get a ton of reps in on the penchés, and that's okay. I want you to focus on that strength and on that balance, okay? Make sure your core is engaged in this process. Otherwise, your body is going to start wobbling around and then we fall out of the balance, okay? Y'all know, because I say it all the time, but there are a few, if any, things that are not going to be improved by making sure your core is engaged in the process. All right. Now, if you take a lot of yoga classes and you keep defaulting into the regular version of the chaturanga, that is okay with me. I know that yoga usually has you like flip over the tops of the feet when you're in that position I was just in, and if that is where you sort of default to going, that's totally fine, okay? That's totally fine with me. This is, again, sort of my own take on it, and I know it's similar, but it is not exactly what it looks like in a true yoga class, because, again, not a yoga instructor. All right, boat rocks. Yeah, boat rocks are definitely an exercise where it took me a long time to actually engage my core in that exercise. You know, I went through a long time being like, oh, well, that exercise is super easy for me. It must be because my core is so strong. It wasn't. It was because I wasn't actually engaging my core. And that happens in a lot of our ab work. So yeah, always make sure that you are checking in and actually using your abdominal muscles to initiate the movement, all right? Back to those penchés. How are you feeling? How's the second time feeling? Are you feeling more settled in the balance, or are you feeling a little bit of fatigue that's making it harder to balance, all right? We want to spend as much time as possible paying attention to the sensations that we feel while we work out so that we can learn, okay, this is what it feels like when my muscle starts to fatigue. And then I have to shift how I'm approaching the exercise. Maybe I have to dial back the energy output so that I am not fatiguing myself quite as quickly right now. Or maybe that's what I'm going for in this particular workout. You know, the nice thing about the 20-10 Tabatas is that 20 seconds is such a small amount of time that we really can push ourselves a lot harder than we can in longer intervals. It's basically our version of sprinting, you know? We don't have to worry as much about fatigue in 20 seconds because 20 seconds is over like that. So we can run as fast as we can. Once you start lengthening that interval, you have to start balancing a little bit more between pushing and challenging ourselves for speed and power and maintaining enough energy that you can get through the exercise. And it is a balancing act, and it's very, it is so individual, okay? So I can give you high level information, but ultimately you need to be the one who is learning how your body reacts to different exercises, how your body reacts to different timer structures, and how to gauge how much energy you can put into pushing and challenging yourself versus how much energy you need to maintain to make sure that you make it through the rest of class. And once you start to get a better handle on all of those questions, you will feel yourself going, class doesn't feel as difficult as it used to. That's exciting. All right, back to our chaturangas. I am always looking for exercises, body weight exercises that really focus in on the arms, because there really aren't a ton of them, and you know, just doing push-ups every day can get a little boring. And I love push-ups, don't get me wrong, but it is nice to be able to vary it up. But you know, unfortunately, a lot of body weight arm exercises do require some degree of more specialized equipment. Like pull-ups are a great body weight arm exercise, but you need to have a cage or a pull-up bar to be able to do them. And obviously, a lot of us don't have those just sitting around in our homes. So, alrighty. Water time, my friends. Make sure you are hydrating. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The signal I generally tend to notice on how well I'm hydrating is at the beginning of class, I take that first sip of water and I discover whether or not my body goes, oh no, you need to drink more of that. So there's definitely been classes where I go to take that first sip and suddenly half of the glass is gone. And then I realize that I probably haven't been hydrating myself as well as I could be throughout my week. So that's always a good check-in. And there's a little bit of, well, if you're that feeling that dehydrated by the time you start exercise, then you discovered this a little bit late. But you know, better late than never. That still applies to hydration. Water is amazing. I love water. Yeah, water. Okay, so now we are going to do a 5-minute AMRAP set. So if you've done CrossFit, you've heard the term AMRAP, as many reps as possible. I use it slightly differently. Basically, I'm going to turn on a 5-minute timer, and we're going to have 3 exercises. Oh, yeah. Look, I'm about to go into move mode, so I totally feel you, but have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Woo! All right, so yeah, 3 exercises, and you get to shift between exercises on your own pace. You do have to do all 3 of them, but you don't have to do them at the whim of the timer or the teacher. So you get a little extra control with this. So our first exercise is going to be a high knee run, because I'm really into that exercise right now. So it's a cousin to the Flaming Scarlet, but we are not doing the V for Victory arms. We are just running back and forth in place and lifting our knees up as high as they can go. So preferably up to or above the hip crease, but in general, just as high as they can go, okay? Second exercise is going to be kick throughs. You know how to do those. We talked about them in the warm-up. I don't need to go over them. Yeah. And then third is going to be a pulsed front superhero. So lying on our stomachs, arms and legs extended. We're gonna lift arms, legs, and chest off the body, and off the ground, and lower, lift, lower, lift, lower. Okay? So those are our 3 high knee runs, kick throughs, and front superheroes. So as soon as you hear the timer, you can begin. So this isn't a tabata. There'll be 1 horn in the middle just to tell you that we're halfway through. But otherwise, as soon as you hear that horn, we are going. Hey, we're going. All right. So I like throwing these in because I do like giving you the opportunity to take a little bit more control over the workout, you know, and it can be really nice to have that opportunity. But some things I do want you to keep in mind. You do have to do all the exercises. So it can be really tempting to be like, oh, I really like this one. I think I'll just keep doing this one the whole time. Or I really hate that exercise, so I'm just not gonna fit that in. You do have to do all 3 of them, okay? You don't have to do a ton of reps. I'd like you to do at least 5, even if you hate the exercise. I'd like you to do at least 5 reps, or 6 if it's something like kick throughs where you're going from one side to the other. And then if you want to stop and move to the next exercise, you can, absolutely. The main things to keep in mind are you don't get to stop moving the whole time, okay? So when you are like, I am done with this exercise, you don't get to just chill and rest. You have to move immediately into the next exercise, okay? So this is a perpetual motion set. There was another thing. I had it in my head. It's gone now. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes. Identifying when you should switch to the next exercise. There are a few metrics to use. One is legitimately, all right, I've done my 5 reps, but I really don't enjoy this exercise. I'm going to move forward. I do always caution against employing that too often, because frequently we will build exercises up in our brains as these big, giant Goliaths, and then even as we're getting stronger, and even as we are getting better at the exercises, our brain still wants to convince us that we struggle with them. So I recommend employing that with caution, okay? We all have exercises that we prefer and exercises that we don't really enjoy. That's simply a fact of life. But do try to give every exercise a chance, okay? But that's one of the reasons. The other main reason, well, no, another reason is, all right, I've been doing this for a while, and Blanche said that I do have to do all of the exercises, so I will move to the next one. And the other one is that you are starting to feel fatigued at the exercise that you're doing, to the point where you are in danger of losing the form, okay? We never want to go to failure with failure meaning I can no longer perform the exercise correctly, okay? So when we talk about, or when I talk about doing something to failure, what I mean is taking it to a point where you identify that if you keep going, you are going to lose your hold on the form, and then stopping there, okay? Not continuing to try to push through until you actually lose the form. Stopping when you go, all right, another 1 or 2 reps of this and I am just gonna lose the form completely, okay? And that definitely comes into play in these AMRAP sets. So make sure that you are not, you're not going so long that you can no longer do the exercise correctly, but then you keep doing the exercise, all right? Because you know that I would rather you do 2 perfect reps than 20 with bad form, because then you're training yourself to do the exercise incorrectly, setting yourself up for injury, all that stuff that I talk about all the time, but it's stuff that we're not trained to pay attention to particularly well. So I feel like it's important for me to hammer it home as much as I can. Yeah, kick-throughs are one of those exercises that I can do them now really well, but my brain still is like, we don't really enjoy this exercise, even though there's not really a reason for me to not like it anymore. But always remember, if your wrists are bothering you with anything that requires us to have our hands, our wrists extended like this, you can always use modifications. So either making a fist and putting that on the floor to keep your wrist totally straight, or using push-up handles or dumbbells to hang on to as a grip, which will still flex your wrist a little bit or extend your wrist a little bit, but not as much as, server carries. Yeah, and that does happen depending on the surface that you're working out on. Doing it from the fists may or may not be viable. I can do it on those puzzle pieces, no problem. But if you're on like a more wooden surface, you might want to go for, if you have dumbbells lying around, just using those handles to keep your wrist a little bit straighter. All right, we're gonna end with my favorite, because you know how much I love it. All right. That was the toe squat song for the morning. It's toe squats. Hey. So at this point, you're all old hands at this, but I'm going to talk about it anyway because Tim hasn't been in class for a while. So, all right, hips, feet. I speak English. Feet hip width apart. Okay, and we're keeping our backs as straight up and down as possible. And we are going to start to squat down. Oh no, I can't go any farther than this because, I have an Achilles tendon. So I'm going to let my heels come off the ground, come all the way down here, and then stand back up, letting my heels naturally come back to the floor. Okay? So we are not ever actively lifting our heels or driving them down. They are simply moving as a consequence of the exercise. All right, my goal is to take the squat position all the way down to its lowest possible point. Well, I can't do that if my heels are still on the ground, so as soon as I can't move any further, I let the heels come up. But I'm not lifting them up, okay? I've definitely seen students go like this and then squat all the way down, which is just a very different balance exercise, and is not what we're going for, okay? So don't make the exercise harder than it is. So we're gonna do 10 minutes. I'm gonna let you take whatever rests you want to during this 10 minutes, but remember, you do need to do the same number of reps each time. So if you start out and you do 20 reps, and then you're like, okay, I need a rest. Cool, you're doing 20 reps each time. If you start out and you get to 50 reps before you say, all right, I think it's break time. Cool, you're now doing 50 reps each time. We're gonna have one horn midway through, just to let us know that we're midway through. And yeah, this is gonna be the last thing we do before stretching. So get on your mats, my friends. Get ready. As soon as you hear that horn, we are going. Feet hip width, core engaged, and we're off. So when I talk about the form for this exercise, I always hammer home that before we go anywhere, before we even start the squat, I want you to make sure that your core muscles are engaged and stabilizing. So when we're going down into this position, it's basically at its lowest point, it's a balance position. We are balancing on the balls of our feet, so it's not a huge surface area. And as with any other balance that we're doing, we're trying to manage any micro adjustments that we need to make to maintain the balance using only the feet and ankles. Well, if I don't have control over my torso and I start going down into this balance position, my torso has the ability to move in any direction. My arms, my head, there's all these different movable limbs that have the potential to just go wandering off in their own directions. And if I'm not trying to control them and turn them into one cohesive piece, then by the time I get down here, I get wobbly, I fall over, maybe I hurt myself, or, I have to ungracefully stand back up and get back into the exercise. So before you go anywhere, get that core engaged, all right? And once you do that, well, now my torso is one cohesive piece, okay? My torso's not going to lean over in any direction that I'm not expecting because my obliques are holding it nice and steady. It's not going to go forward or backwards because my abdominals are engaged in the party. My arms are already doing their thing, so they're moving very slowly and deliberately and predictably. And so now I go down into this position and I am rock solid in this balance. And my feet and my ankles know that they don't have to worry about my torso going in some unexpected direction and taking the entire body with it. The other thing, on the flip side of this, is not letting gravity get in on the party. Gravity wants to be let into the party so much. Gravity is like, but look, you're trying to get down to the floor. I want to help you get down to the floor. Why don't we work together? Well, we don't work together because if you're letting gravity sort of pull you down and you're bouncing around at the bottom of this position, you are putting really nasty, unhealthy pressures on your knees. And this is already a really intense exercise for your knees. So you want to protect them as much as possible, which means that you need to control every moment of this exercise. We are not letting gravity come in and pull us down to the floor more quickly. It doesn't mean that you can't speed up, but even if I am here going really fast, relatively speaking, you see that I am still fully controlling the movement. I'm not bouncing when I get down there. I'm in total control at all points of the exercise. And that is so important for our knee health, okay? So make sure that you're using your core to stabilize and bring your torso under control, and that you are not listening to the siren song of gravity, and are making sure that you are controlling the motion at every point, okay? I do love this exercise. How are you feeling with this? We've been doing a lot of toe squats recently. We've basically been doing toe squats every single Saturday class for almost a month, I think. It's definitely an intense exercise, but hopefully, as we have continued to do it, and as you have continued to get experienced at it, you are starting to notice changes. You're starting to notice increased strength in your quads. You're starting to notice that your feet aren't cramping the way that they may have when you first started doing this exercise. Hey, we're halfway through the timer. I know that when I started doing toe squats, I definitely got cramps in my arches, and then had to sort of suffer through them as I finished out the squats. And to be clear, it's totally natural. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's just a sign that we're working the arches harder than they may be used to working, you know, because we are essentially going up and down and up and down and up and down on our feet over and over again. So it is totally normal to feel that cramping and that added engagement in your arches. Hopefully, as you have gotten more experience doing the exercise, you have started to feel that less as your arches have strengthened, okay? And, you know, hopefully you get to a point eventually where you do not even get any cramping in your arches. But when you're taking your rests during this, if you've been feeling a little bit of cramping, then roll over the tops of your toes, okay? So we get that nice stretch along the top of the foot going up into the shin, and it also just reverses what we've been doing with the toes. So the toes have been going up into this flex position over and over again. So now we want to lengthen them out, stretch them out on the other side, and just sort of even them out a little bit, okay? So definitely take the opportunity to stretch while you're resting, okay? We've got our standing quad stretch. We've got our foot stretch. We've got our calf stretch against a wall. Just imagine that I'm against a wall where we extend one leg straight behind us and we want to drive that heel down to the floor. And sometimes you need to apply a little bit of pressure to the wall to get that heel pushed down and really intensify that stretch. So that's one of the nice things about doing these 10-minute sets like this, is that you can do these stretches as we're going. You don't have to wait until the end of class, although there will be plenty of stretching at the end of class. I am very much looking forward to it, and I hope you are too, because it's really important to do some stretching at the end of our classes and just make sure that we're taking care of ourselves as best as we can. Alrighty. Oh man, we're doing so good. So good, my friends. And hopefully you're still breathing. Hopefully you're still getting all of that oxygen moving through your body. I don't generally worry about people forgetting to breathe unless we're doing held positions, but sometimes we get into a groove and we do stop breathing as consistently. And let me tell you, your muscles still need that oxygen. We are here at the end of class. We are in our final minute and we've been working hard. There's some fatigue, and so we want to make sure that we are getting all the oxygen we can moving through our systems, continuing to initiate the use of our energy systems and clearing out all those waste products as we exhale. So we have just 20 seconds left. I want you to try to keep going for these last 20 seconds. Really make sure that you are still just as much in control as you were at the beginning. You are strong, you are confident, you are powerful. You have absolutely got this. Yes. Woo! All right. Shake your feet out a little bit. Sort of shaking your entire legs out, honestly. All right. Let's come down to our mats and let's take our legs extended in front of us. All right. And we are gonna take our arms out like this and we're gonna fold ourselves over our legs. So we're going for that hamstring stretch here, okay? And one of the ways to intensify it is to try to get our lower backs as close to the tops of our thighs as we can. We don't need to have locked our knees on the floor, but we don't want to let them come up any higher than we can help it, okay? And obviously as we lean over them, the added weight will help to smooth them out a little bit. But we're going to sort of take a flat back forward, grab for the feet, and then you can use your feet to pull yourself down more deeply into the stretch. Always moving slowly and deliberately. We're not trying to rush to the end point because we don't want those muscles that we're trying to stretch to start to contract instead. So we are here and we are just going to take 4 deep breaths, and each time you exhale, I want you to try to sink a little more deeply down towards your legs, all right? Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Roll back up. Shake those knees out a little bit. Now, let's bring the soles of our feet together. Get a little bit more room in these stretch of pants. All right, soles of the feet together. We're doing a butterfly stretch now. And again, we want to try and maintain that flat back as far as we can before we let ourselves fold over, so that we bring the lower back closer to the floor, to our legs, and intensify the stretch, this time really in our hips. So take a flat back position and then walk your hands one at a time forward till you don't feel like you can go forward anymore. Then let the upper back curve over, and hopefully you can feel that you're a little deeper into the stretch than you would have been otherwise. And we're going to do those same
4 deep breaths again, trying to get a little deeper into the stretch each time. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Roll back up.
Oh yeah. And now we're going to extend our legs out into a nice wide position. You want to make sure that your knees are pointing up towards the ceiling the whole time. So as with everything else, we don't want those knees caving forward. So you may need to engage a little bit of the musculature in your hip to maintain that, okay? And we're gonna start, we're just gonna go towards one leg, square our shoulders towards it, and we're gonna fold over, okay? Really intensify that hamstring stretch, but now we're really focused on just one leg, okay? So let's just hold here. We're not gonna do the full breaths, but I just want you to hold here for a little bit and feel that stretch. You want your shoulders to be square towards the floor, towards your knees, okay? So we're trying to not let one shoulder open out in any direction, and just really try and keep sinking a little bit more deeply into that stretch until you are fully folded over that leg. Now, I want you to take the same arm as leg. I want you to bring it to the inside of the leg. And now I want you to open your shoulders out. Bring the other arm up and over. And we are in this nice long stretch, really getting a stretch along the side of the back, along that lat, okay? And just really feeling that stretch. So we still obviously have some stretching activation in the hamstring, but now we're really getting that long side stretch in the back. That's an area that is harder to stretch out. So this is a really nice thing to do for it. And now just back up to the center and other side. So starting, we square our shoulders towards that leg and we bring ourselves over until we are folded over the leg. And again, you will notice differences in your flexibility from side to side. So this side, you may feel like you can get a little deeper into the stretch than you could, or you may feel like you can't get as deep into the stretch. You also will notice the leg that's over here, there may be differences in how easy it is for you to keep that knee pointing up towards the ceiling, which yes, you still need to do, okay? So again, taking every opportunity to learn more about our bodies. All right, take that arm to the inside of the leg, open those shoulders out, bring that other arm up and around and feel that nice long stretch. All right, make sure that you're breathing. All right, this is the place where people forget to breathe. And in stretching in particular, we like to use breath as a mechanic to help us get a little deeper into the stretch. So we inhale and we visualize that oxygen going to wherever we're feeling the most intensity of sensation. And then we exhale and we get to settle a little bit more deeply, okay? Now, let that arm come up. Deep breath. You can shake those knees out a little bit. And I think that we are good. Whew. That is totally fine, Amanda. I am so glad that you noticed that. Twitch stream the musical. Look, It's going to happen eventually. You know me too well. You know me too well to think that I'm not absolutely going to make a Twitch stream musical someday. See, no, that's awesome. And you're listening to your body, which is super important. And as you said, you've gone back to much more frequent workouts this week. And that doesn't happen in a vacuum, you know? It's one of the reasons why when people are like, I want to be able to work out 5 days a week, I'm like, cool, start with one. Start with one. Maintain that for a couple of weeks, and then don't jump straight to 5. Go to 2 or 3, okay? We want to ramp slowly because that energy has to come from somewhere. And if we don't have the energy for it, then we're going to get demoralized and we're not going to feel like we can achieve what we're trying to achieve. And, you know, gif of Kermit waving his arms around. So it is always so important, especially when you're trying to ramp up your workouts in other ways, to pay attention to how that impacts everything, okay? It impacts the amount of energy that you have available for this workout, the amount of water that you need to be drinking. It impacts the amount of food that you need to be consuming, and it also highlights where rest becomes more important, okay? So I'm glad that you're paying attention. Not that I thought that you wouldn't. I trust you. Yeah. Back to 5 is generally, I generally don't like people doing more than 5. We can move every day, you know, but in terms of higher intensity exercise, generally, like 5 days is about where I like people to end up. Because again, rest is super important, and especially when we're trying to build exercise as a consistent tool in our toolbox for a healthy life, then rest becomes even more important because we are human beings and we need to rest just as much as we need to move. So yeah, 5 days a week I think is a really good number. And it, again, it's not to say that you can't like go for walks on the other couple of days, or, you know, do some light gardening, or, you know, stuff like that. Like you don't have to be a couch potato on the other 2 days, but just be really conscious of what days you are asking for super high intensity from your body. Because again, there is an upper limit to what your body can manage. And if you're not fueling yourself properly, and if you're not hydrating properly, then that upper limit gets lower and lower and lower. Okay? All right. Oh, what a great class today. So good to have you all here. Lots of good conversation, lots of fun. Just wonderful. Just wonderful. Yeah. I love these Saturday morning classes. It's so good to have you both back. I'm really, really pleased. Really pleased. And make sure to take care of that shoulder for the rest of the day. I know you will. And if you don't, I'm going to see you tonight so I can glare at you in person. All right, my loves, this is the end of our broadcast week. We will be back once again next week for the usual schedule. So we've got Tuesdays at 5:45 p.m. Mountain Time. All my times are Mountain Time. We start with Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving. Then Wednesdays at 4:30 p.m. We have Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. Fridays at 6 p.m. We have Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around your house. And that brings us back around to Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. for the weekend kickoff. It's just a really, really great schedule of workouts. The next couple of weeks, I may default to older programs just because, well, I have to execute a move. And moving is stressful. So I'm going to try and reduce the amount of stress that I feel while doing that. So we're still going to have class because I think that's really important. But if I'm all over the place, well, I'm yeah, I'm trying to move in the middle of a pandemic. Thankfully, I'm only moving down the street. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All those handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche K's Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. So definitely head over there and subscribe. I upload every Sunday, and once the move is done, there will be a lot of additional content going up there I'm really excited about. Hell yeah, moving sucks. I'm really excited for this move, I have to say. Like, it's going to be stressful, but the end result is going to be so ridiculously positive that I'm just thrilled. And it's not as stressful as it could be because we have 2 weeks to get everything over to the new place. So it's like, it's going to be a chill process. It's a chill process, as chill as this ever is. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I do have a coffee account, Blanche K's Fitness. Your donations are always very much appreciated. And if you want to join this community, keep working out with us, keep having fun here, then please do follow the channel. Tell your friends, loved ones, coworkers, anyone looking for a good class stream. I stream 4 days a week. I want to do more. We've got one more metric to get to Twitch affiliate, and we are getting closer. We really are, which is ridiculous. Yeah, definitely come and hang out, even if you're not up to working out on any given day. It's a fun time. It's a fun community. Hang out and chat. I'd love to have you here. And now I'm gonna go shower and have breakfast before heading off to be super nerdy with D&D. Woohoo! So make sure to shower. Make sure to hydrate. Make sure to eat some food. Make sure to do your part to dismantle white supremacy and late-stage capitalism. And I will see you all back here again on Tuesday. Mwah! Have a great day.